Go ahead.
Hey, fine in Philly. Um,
It's been a long time.
yeah.
Very
Well,
long time.
first, let us congratulate ourselves on surviving the apocalypse that never happened. Um, yeah, I guess they ran out of calendar pages, or the algorithm really didn't work out. Just,
Right, yeah.
anyways, so
Just
this.
as lame as usual.
Well, that's the characteristic of
Alright,
Deepwater
alright.
Fish. It brings in the lameness of the show and the humor, which can also be lame, but that's not the point.
Aw.
Anyways, Deepwater Fish. Once again, we're back. 2013. We're still living in the same place.
It's been 2 years. We didn't do anything in 2012.
No, we did. The Roach,
You put that up?
dude. Like seriously,
It's not on the. It's not on the final Philly page.
the YouTube page.
Yeah.
It is.
No.
Yeah.
Alright. Well.
Okay. Well, anyways,
He's wrong, by the way. I just checked it today.
you guys have seen the video, so you know that I'm right.
I think you put it on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, if it's on YouTube, then I put it on Facebook. I didn't put the video on Facebook. I put the YouTube link on Facebook.
Okay. Whatever.
Okay, anyways.
Alright. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the point is that so as a lot has happened in the last 1 year.
I was just gonna
and-
say. Go ahead.
Okay, so a lot has happened in the last year, and I don't know. I think we've gone through like different experiences that
We've
have
changed
exactly.
quite a bit.
Yeah. So we don't want to start just like vomiting out whatever we have done in the past year. So as a matter of fact, today we would like to talk to you, respond to a request
That
in
was
which
made about more than a year ago, actually. So, which came from our friend from college, and he asked us if we could do an episode on whether humans will eventually create a virtual reality for themselves, such that it pretty much turns into the Matrix, where our whole lives are spent in a virtual reality. So, and it's very timely apparently that we come to this question. We just watched this other video that was about a piece of research that was done at Harvard about zebrafish.
yes,
Baby zebrafish that measure up to maybe like 4 millimeters. They were their brains contain about like 300,000 neurons, and we were able to observe them. Apparently, I mean humans.
So I mean, to give you a little bit of background
Yeah.
as to why we're talking about the zebrafish
He
is
does the background
because
stuff.
yeah,
Perfect.
because
Yeah.
I like to talk a lot. And anyways, so for the last few years in neuroscience, there's been a big push to map neural networks so that we understand if there is like associations between our actions or our thinking and how it results in motor behaviors. So basically, what these guys are trying to do in Harvard is that they have the zebrafish and they want to see how the neural network works when this fish is basically trying to swim. And to that effect, what they did was basically they paralyzed the fish on like basically a petri dish, because it's only 4 millimeters, and in some water so that it doesn't dry out and die.
Kind
and,
of, though.
yeah. Well.
Alright, continue.
Okay. Anyways,
It's a joke.
and they have they give the zebrafish like stimulation inside the brain to make it feel like it's in a water current, like it's actually swimming against a current.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was it an external stimulus, or
Yes.
was it? So okay, so it's not actually virtual reality because the stimulus is still coming from outside.
Well, the stimulation is basically what you have is like you have a projector light with like alternating bands of like black and white, and so the way these bands move, when the zebrafish perceives it through like just by seeing it, you have like a tail movement.
Yes. So it's because its brain is less complex. Its understanding of a current it can can be refined to just a few black and white stripes.
Yes, exactly.
So, and this, I know in the Telltale Brain, there's that example about the red dot on the beak of a bird, at which the not the baby, what do you call them?
Baby birds.
Baby.
Chicks.
Yeah, chicks. The chicks peck at, and you can replace the beak with a strip that has a red line at the end, and the chicks will still peck at that strip when they're born, thinking that it's their mother. So the less complex I guess the brain is, the brain of the animal, the simpler the versions of their models of external stimulus is, in some sense.
Right, because...
So I assume that's why that works. I had to explain that to myself, by the way.
Well, I mean, that also helps explaining the whole premise.
Yes.
So how that relates to the Matrix is the fish is essentially paralyzed, like physically paralyzed on the dish, so that it doesn't like obviously move away.
And guy like this, held down,
kind of like
this.
wiggles around.
It's pretty sad.
As a matter of reference, if you just go to YouTube and type in fish bowl Matrix,
We'll put it in the comments. You can
okay, yeah. So basically, that's the premise, and how that relates to the Matrix is the fish is physically paralyzed, but it's still receiving stimulation and in effect producing an action. And if you compare to the movie, which is a little different, but in the sense that
big leaps.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make that. Well,
no, go on. I just
culture
mean from
references-
science to sci-fi is a big leap,
right.
but go on.
Yeah, so the bodies of the humans need to be alive, but physically restrained or paralyzed to generate the bioelectricity that basically the robots are harvesting in the movie, right? And
Virtual reality.
yes, but I think reaching that point still is like a very fictitious concept. Like, where will we actually put in like these gels and like being harvested for electricity? But if you think about what actually is happening at the moment, in the last few years, is that we have essentially established a virtual avatar of ourselves. It's not only about the social network; it also consists of stuff like World of Warcraft, like simulation games like Half-Life.
Yeah.
Not Half-Life, sorry, Second Life.
Well done.
Yeah,
all right. No, the thing our friend asked us about does not concern the robot part, or
right?
A human the humans being taken over by machines. It's more, can we produce virtual reality for ourselves, which for us can't just be external stimulus. Like, if you're gonna do that, you're already there. Like, life is already a virtual reality of stimulus. Here we are. So the question is, can you connect electrodes to the brain and zap it in such a way that you will create stimulus?
But isn't that essentially still an external stimulus? Because you're having...
Well, in some sense, it will always be an external stimulus. You can't transport yourself
inside
anywhere else, actually. So it will always be an external stimulus. The question is the external stimulus is it coming from the reality that we know, like with objects hitting us, air brushing our skin, or is it coming from a bunch of electrodes? Is it controlled?
Right.
By humans.
So in that sense,
that's it. Virtual reality, because the whole point of creating a virtual reality would be to experience what you want to experience.
Not necessarily. It could also be.
We're going
like
towards the singularity again. Oh God.
Well, I mean, it's
Not
kind of
again.
inevitable.
Fuck. Jason Silva. Ah!
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, but go on.
Well, in some sense, then we're already in the virtual reality. Like.
Really?
Not already, in the sense that like.
I was being.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mean everybody, but like people who are really into like these virtual worlds, like World of Warcraft, or like
this is true. I guess they're taking
Life.
They're taking a secondary reality to be more pleasant than the one that we have.
And
anytime you play a computer game, that's what you're doing, in a sense.
Well, usually then you think of it as a computer game, but in these cases, there have been a lot of cases, like in these situations.
Is that so? How absorbed do we get when we're playing computer games.
We do, but here's the thing: if you're playing, let's say, for example, you're playing, let's say,
I mean, you know, it's not real, but
right, like you're controlling, like let's
But
say,
nonetheless-
Age of Empires. You're playing Age of Empires, and you're controlling these units, and like you think you're the general of this like whole kingdom and stuff, but like you know that
yeah.
2 hours later you have to do
Here's the
homework
question,
and stuff.
though. Here's a question. If we were to ever create a virtual reality where, you know, you have like a brain in a vat,
Right?
is that brain going to know that it's in a virtual reality?
No, if the virtual
Oh,
reality,
that's fucked up.
that's the whole point. That's like the complete
I don't,
transition.
No, I don't think that's what
Well, you can have
our
like
buddy meant.
you can
I'll
have
call him Neo-Simeon.
Who?
The person who asked the question.
What's his name?
Neo-Simeon. Well, that's his
Neo-Simeon?
nickname.
Okay, alright. So Neo-Simeon, I
He
don't...
used to be.
He or she should really explain the premise or the extent of virtual reality we're talking about, because at this point, I think there is like, you can have bouts or like spurts of virtual reality in your own life where you're completely absorbed in a secondary reality as to your primary reality, which is like technically physical reality around you. But then the question also arises, like,
Technically.
yeah, well, because there's always the question of this: is this what you see around you? Is it real?
All right, let's not go back to reality. I don't want to go.
Right. So what I'm saying is that as of this moment, it is possible to enter virtual reality for periods of time and be adjusted to it. But the question, if
Daniel
we're going
Dennett
to be
says no.
really,
Yeah, Daniel Dennett at the beginning of his book Consciousness Explained talks about the amount of control we would need to have to be able to create such a reality. Like if we were to be brains in a vat and like we're experiencing
okay, you know what? The brains
Calm
in a
down,
vat
calm
thing
down,
is a
calm-
little like
All right,
stretch.
whatever. All right, well maybe we're lying in some hospital and we have electrodes stuck in our heads, blah blah blah. So he says that to be able to create the level of sensation that we feel, like on your hand, how many nerves are there, how many nerve ends are there that pick up all this data and report it to your brain. So his point is that computationally to be able to pull that off is basically impossible, because the amount of feedback, first of all, the number of stimulus that you need, like imagine the air molecules touching your hand, that on top of that, all the reactions, all the feedback loops that are in your nerves,
Right.
It's pretty much impossible for you to at least when it comes to tactile information, I believe it will be pretty much impossible to imitate reality.
Okay.
Or imitate what reality feels like to a human brain. To a human. To our awareness. And I guess ultimately.
But I mean,
So
if it's only a matter
I say it's
of like,
impossible. That's what I'll
the
say.
thing is, if it's only a matter of like mapping reactions or like mapping which sensors are being turned on by what sort of texture or tactile information or any other stimulation,
Yeah.
there's already a project going on which uses crowdsourcing or like the power of the citizen science to help track neurons that get turned on by certain stimulation. So what they basically did is they have like,
Yes, we're busy mapping.
yeah, we're basically still mapping, and once the whole thing has been mapped, then the other part, which is the development of the artificial intelligence, which would allow like a whole system to be sustainably producing its own stimulation to feed these like virtual avatars,
Yes.
would still need to be developed.
Yes.
I think for this virtual reality,
I'm saying it won't be.
well, I mean, it
Look,
might.
Our
I mean,
computers are not fast enough. Period.
I hope you're not talking it based on like your laptop or.
No, I'm talking about supercomputers or clusters. For my work, I use like huge computers that do stuff a lot faster, like in parallel and stuff. But the point that I'm trying to make is we're going to be physically incapable of that level of computation.
But I mean, according to Moore's law, we should be able to do it.
Yeah,
though.
but Moore's law has certain. Moore's law is going to plateau at some point because it with the sort of what are they called? Oh fuck. all right, the technology that we use in our computers today has the physical limit. Like you can make them smaller and smaller and smaller, but at the end, you come to the limit of like a single atom, which comes to like quantum computation.
Okay.
Right. So there's a size limit to how fast you can do things. So okay, quantum computation. All right, if that happens, yes. Maybe we'll get close to it. Maybe we'll make good models of tactile reality. Maybe we could imitate a little bit, but it will never be like reality itself. Because there's a
But
limit.
how do you know how reality is? Isn't it like an individual perception?
I'm in it.
Oh, you don't say.
Right here, right now.
Well, I mean, isn't there like a quantum computer in MIT that they made like with like frozen helium and stuff?
Yeah, frozen helium. To produce a quantum computer, to mass produce a quantum computer, is pretty much impossible at this point, and it will be for a very long time, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, if the
Because
first one
you
is
have
made,
to
you
drop
can just
the
scale
temperature.
down.
No, it's that's the thing. You can't scale it down. It's not so easy because you're talking about temperatures like 4 Kelvin. You gotta drop the temperature to the point where, like, can you imagine like me having a little setup in my room where I can like hook a bunch of stuff to my brain and shit is dropping to 4 Kelvin right next to me to run my quantum computer? Are you out of your mind?
But there's a guy who cryogenically stored herself. Well, that's a very
that
different
is
premise,
completely unrelated.
Because liquid nitrogen can be used to store living organisms in a suspended
And she
animation
came back?
state. Well, she's kind of dead. She wants to be awakened like a bunch of years later. But then she was also a cancer patient, so I think that's a different premise.
She's not waking up, guys. She's gone.
The world's probably gonna end. Anyways, this is a little.
She's not coming back.
Yeah.
You just pick the point that was like so badly chosen.
Yeah, I agree. That was a
It's
very
okay,
bad.
I forgive him.
What would I do without it? Anyways, so technically now the question is how what do you guys think how far would be able to go in terms of constructing a virtual reality? And yeah, I guess till next time.
Yeah, this is our first lame video from 2013. I think next up we're gonna talk about some strange experiences that I've had in the last year. And hopefully put up new topics on our Facebook page.
Yep.
So that we
Yep.
have some
Because, I
to
mean,
talk about.
I don't know how much
Because
fun
we don't talk anymore. We exhausted our conversation topics.
So if you really
we
want to
need some
experience
help.
how it is in Philly, it's silent.
It's
pretty
silent.
much. It's silent
It's-
in Philly.
It's silent in Philly. I like it. Great.
All right, take
All
care,
right.
everybody.
Peace.